What I remember from meeting Alison is when we were looking for a new affiliate composer. What got my attention from Alison when I heard her music, I thought she has a voice, she has something to say. I'm sure she's going to develop in the next years. And it's great for us as an orchestra and also for me to be part of that process of the project. But also we had an interview and she was obviously curious and very open-minded and also interacting with her just was very organic, very easy. And she has been, since she started working with us at the TSO, attending so many rehearsals, performances. We did many premieres. She has been also interacting with other composers. And I think that's, and for her and for us, I think it's a beautiful frame in which she can develop and we can be part of this development. So it has been very enjoyable and look forward to conduct her music in the next concerts.
I am Alison Yunfei Jiang, and I am the current RBC affiliate composer with the Toronto Symphony Orchestra. The inspiration really came from a four-line gatha from the Diamond Sutra. So personally, I'm a culturally Buddhist person. I'm not religious, but I grew up in a Buddhist household. And it's interesting that just right before starting the piece, I just stumbled across this really beautiful and poetic verse in the Diamond Sutra, and it has a lot of imageries of light. So there's a shooting star, there's like a flickering lamp, thundering clouds, like dews, sunlight. And it was just talking about how these different forms of lights are really just ways of humans of looking at the conditioned. So I was really inspired and struck by these imageries of different light forms. And so I thought about writing a piece that could perhaps not necessarily portray the exact imagery of light, but just bring forth the impressions of these different lights and the transformations. And also was inspired by the idea of impermanence in Buddhism, and as a parallel to like the human transformation process. So that was really just the initial inspiration for the piece.
The initiative of the Spotlight Artist, I think is very interesting. Definitely for us, the musicians on stage, to get to know someone better, and not only for a few days, but for more than one program. That helps creating a relationship, to get to know the person, the artist. In fact, we had in the last years that when an artist comes for a second time in a few months, you feel the familiarity. You feel it's someone who somehow belongs to your family. But I think also for the audience to get to know someone, to have a first contact, but also to push that, not to wait a few years to get someone again on the podium, but just to get closer to an artist. But not only from the point of view of Masterworks series, but also chamber music playing, also teaching the musicians of the TSYO. So just collaborating with the organization, with the orchestra, from different angles. So I think it's also, because we have 2 spotlight artists per season, it's also an opportunity. You can search for contrast, different background, different repertoire, different instrument, or a voice, in this case with Emily D'Angelo. So within a few months we have the opportunity of doing different repertoire with her, and that's great, I think, to set the basis of further, building up our relationship. Well, obviously Brahms was really intimidated by the near presence of Beethoven. Therefore, even though Brahms was obviously such a talented musician and composer, he was probably very hard on himself, he felt the proximity in history of Beethoven, and indeed intimidated, simply not daring presenting something to an audience, presenting something to the world. Obviously, the First Symphony by Brahms has also a clear influence by Beethoven, but also from other composers like Schubert. Schumann, undoubtedly, and you can feel this in many different motifs in all movements, which are clearly coming from recognizable themes from Beethoven symphonies, from Schubert, Schumann, but he found his own way of making it not obvious that it comes from the influence of other composers. So it's quite extraordinary to find your own voice, even though you have been so clearly influenced by other great composers before him. But Brahms' music, it's gorgeous, so the degree of nostalgia and warmth and expression, it's extraordinary. And in fact, orchestras are always looking forward to play Brahms, and the way that influences the mood during a week or in a concert is just wonderful place where to be. Performing Brahms is every musician, every orchestra, and every conductor is always very much looking forward to do music by Brahms. When we were celebrating our 100th, we selected a number of composers to do very, very short pieces, which we call celebratory preludes. That's the moment when I got to know Julia Mermelstein. And indeed, that's always for me. I mean, there are basically two aspects. One, the most important, is a genuine voice. That's where I'm always searching. Is this composer telling something? Do they have something to tell? Are they able to convey emotions, to create a mood, to tell a story? And of course, the craftsmanship, instrumentation, and their capacity of writing for an orchestra, it's also something which is more technical, which you consider. But in the end, personality and something unique is what I'm looking for. Cristina Volpini is also one of the composers who did a celebratory prelude for the TSO. So in our 100th, we had all those little preludes starting all our concerts, all our programs. And also with Cristina Volpini, I felt something unique. And obviously, when you talk about young composers, you just know they are going to develop in the future, and you also want to be part of that process. But when there is something unique, something which makes a composer different than the rest, something which sticks out, then makes you interested, makes you curious. So therefore, having another opportunity of working with Cristina Volpini and with Julia Mermelstein, I think is something I'm very much looking forward to. Working with young musicians, I suppose I'm basically the same person, the same musician. Probably there is a layer in your thoughts, a degree of different kind of responsibility. You realize that there are some basic things in music making, in orchestral music making, which can be of great help or can be very inspiring to those young musicians who are so receptive, so open, so much ahead of them, so much to discover. What they don't know is that probably they are very excited and even nervous of being next to the musicians of the TSO and to be next to me, but actually I also myself excited and even nervous because you realize, that you have a responsibility, that they might have a wonderful experience which is going to accompany them for a whole life, hopefully in the best of cases. So we feel that kind of responsibility. And what they don't know is how inspiring it is for us when they are on stage. They are probably, like I said, maybe concerned of, being there in the same stage with these great musicians. But actually they are not aware of the fact that if you compare with the previous weeks, their presence brings something to us. When the mood changes, the atmosphere, even as, I think all of us feel a responsibility towards those young musicians. So their presence I find really very inspiring, and that creates a very special vibe, quite unique. So it's wonderful always to have, every season, to have the opportunity of making music, the TSO together with the TSYO. I worked before with Frank-Peter Zimmermann. He's someone I grew up admiring him. listening to his CDs, to his concerts. He's an incredible violinist. He has always been an incredible violinist, and he's still in absolutely top shape and in really such an strong, honest musician. And I did with him the second violin concerto by Bartók years ago. Then we did also In the Myth, Kammermusik, also Fantasy by Schumann. And I saw him recently, and I told him how much I was looking forward to welcome him back in Toronto, because I think he was in Toronto, but something like, I think, longer than 20 years ago. I think he even played a concert with the TSO at the Carnegie Hall. So he has not been to Toronto since then. I was also telling him how much I think the city has changed, or definitely downtown, or definitely that area around Roy Thompson Hall. So he's very much looking forward to work with the TSO as well. I think it's a great opportunity also for the new musicians of the orchestra to get to know him and to make music with such a great musician, but also for those who were back then 20 years ago to re-encounter him. It's great. In fact, often I talk to musicians in the corridors during these days in the rehearsals or before a concert or in the intermission, and they tell me, Frank Peter Zimmermann is so great and he was in the past with us, etc. So they are so excited. So I think it's going to be a great moment having him back in Toronto. James Ennis is family to the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, to the audience in Toronto. Is not only incredible violinist, musician, is such a warm personality, such a great guy, and such a pleasure to work with him. For me, for all the musicians of the orchestra, he has always come with regularity to Toronto and to the TSO, and this is just, every time he comes, as I said, it just feels so right, because he's someone you know who is incredible musician, violinist, but also so versatile. He plays the viola wonderfully, he plays the violin, he plays all kinds of concertos, modern concertos, new compositions, romantic concertos, and classical music. Is just his capacity and his musicianship and his personality are quite unique. So it's great to have this opportunity within a few months to have him with us. And of course there will be more opportunities in the future, but it's to intensify our relationship. It's great.